I'm so honored to be in the presence of Medgar Evers College President, Dr. Patricia Ramsey. So today I'll be interviewing her. In fact, I came to this college. This was the first ever university campus I've come to in my life. So I came to this college when I was only 2 years old for an interview with its then vice president, Dr. Gerald Postman.
It's magnesium.
Magnesium! Oh my goodness! You know everything! And this one?
Carbon!
But I'm so honored to be here more than 10 years later. Dr. Patricia Ramsey has been the president of Medgar Evers College since 2021 and is also the first woman and first scientist to be chosen for the position, which is why I'm so honored to be with her today. And my family also has very deep connections with the CUNY system in general. We've all taken at least one course at CUNY colleges, and my mom and my dad have both earned degrees from the CUNY system, as well as my brother. So technically, I'm the only one left out. So thank you so much for inviting me, and I can't wait to get to know all about you.
I was just interested in how did you get so interested in math?
That's a very long story, but essentially, it has to do with when I was 1.5 or 2 years old. My dad was a mathematics student, and in fact, he got one of his mathematics degrees from a CUNY college. So, CUNY is everywhere in our family. But I was noticing him doing math everywhere, and I was so fascinated at what he was doing and like how the mechanics worked, even though didn't understand anything he was writing down. So one day I asked him to teach me, and eventually, when my mom was getting me ready for preschool, so she was teaching me basic arithmetic operations because she wanted to make sure I was like ahead of the other kids who were still learning to count. So she was like teaching me 2 plus 3 is equal to 5, right? And I asked her, but what happens if you take like a random number, like x? What happens if you take two x's and then three x, and then you add them together? And so my mom noticed this like rapid abstraction of ideas, and she asked me to learn from my father instead because my dad had a lot more fundamentals of math based in. My mom is more of an early childhood education student. That's what she's getting her master's degree in at CCNY actually. So my dad taught me a lot more mathematics, and eventually, when I was 5 or 6, I was outpacing him at the Calculus 1 and Calculus 2, which was the extent of his knowledge. And so I went on to skip grades so that I could learn high school math from like an actual high school and also get all of my other education fundamentals sorted out. And then I started taking courses, supplementary courses at different colleges around New York. Some of those colleges being CUNY colleges, actually, so that I could further my interest in mathematics more. I took the American math competition because I found competition math especially fun. And now that's all driven me to land here where I am today. I'm getting my bachelor's degree in mathematics.
So, other than math, what do you enjoy doing?
Yeah, I enjoy doing a lot of things, mainly drawing maps, actually.
Okay.
So, cartography has always been pretty interesting to me. And that's one of the main things I do in my free time. Some of the other things I do are just draw in general, or I try to learn a little bit more about history, and I'm also a fan of physics and chemistry.
Okay. Well, of course, you need to have math to do physics and chemistry.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, that's great. That's great. At least you have, I would say, a diverse kind of interest. Because, of course, if you're drawing maps, that's a little bit on the other side of the brain. Takes a little bit of the other side of the brain to do that too.
Yeah, you have to actually like be creative with what you want to depict with the map,
Yeah.
and you have to make sure it looks nice. That has nothing to do with like the rigorous side of your brain.
Yeah.
That's making sure everything makes sense.
Yeah.
What's your background in, and how has that influenced your approach to leadership here at Medgar Evers?
Well, one of the things I would like to share with you, since you said you are 12, about to be 13, um, what helped to influence who I am today has to do with my parents, because they had a business when I was a child. And we, at a very young age, worked in that business. It was a convenience store. So by the age, before the age of 12, I actually had power of attorney to sign checks for the business. And so that meant that they trusted me. And people used to really marvel at the fact that my sister and I could stand without a cash register and figure out the totals in our head. And so I thought that you might like that since you like math so much. But a lot of what happens as a child helps to guide who you become as an adult. And one of the things my father talked about was um, that the customer is always right. And therefore, um, as a part of who I am, I always think about those other people and how I would feel if I was in that person's place. As it relates to the science, very early on, I had an interest in biology in high school and had a great teacher that I decided that I wanted to test because I didn't think that she knew as much as I did in 10th grade. So the teacher asked us to look at our hair under the microscope. And I looked under the microscope and I just saw these squiggly lines. So I drew those squiggly lines and I sent it in. And so when she gave me the paper back, it had a really big F. And so I challenged her. I said, "You don't know what my hair looks like under the microscope. So how do you know that what I sent you is not my hair?" And I learned after getting into college that all hair looks the same under the light microscope. And so I said, here I am, a 10th grader trying to challenge the teacher. And so she would say, study long, you study wrong, and all of those types of things. And she really challenged us. And so 5 of us decided to become biology majors because of that professor. And so many of the things in my childhood have actually helped to influence who I am today.
Yeah, actually, I've always been really concerned with like challenging myself as well. So it's very nice to hear that that influences everybody in like their drive to become somebody who stands out in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally felt like I wasn't being challenged enough in my first and second and third grade education, which is why I managed to skip grades all the way to eighth grade, then ninth, then all the way to my senior year. So, I mean, most of the drive for me to do what I'm doing today, and in fact, to give the talk that I'll be doing in about half an hour, is just to challenge myself. So, I mean, what are you doing, and what are the drives that some of your students are taking to challenge themselves at Medgar Evers? What resources do you have to allow your students to exercise their brain?
Well, one of the things that I have always believed in with my students is explore your wonderment. And I would always ask students, is there anything you've ever wondered about? And if you've wondered about this thing, then test it to see if what you're wondering is the case. And so that philosophy has kind of been with me throughout my teaching. And also to say to students, you can be whatever you want to be. Don't let anyone stop you from doing that thing which you think that you can do. But I want to share that the students at Medgar Evers College, very bright students, but many of our students are challenged not from their intellectual ability, but from the fact that our median family income for families that of students that attend is below $19,000 a year in New York City. And so we have students who some are housing unstable and food insecure. And so we provide opportunities for those students so that their environment won't necessarily impact negatively their success. But I love being around the students, and they energize me, and also I feed into them as much as I can. It just so happens that we offer both the associate's degree as well as the bachelor's degree, and there are three institutions in CUNY who do that: City Tech, Staten Island, and Medgar Evers.
I think I've been to all three of those
Yeah.
actually, and I took a course over at City Tech. So, I mean, I know what it's like to be at one of those colleges.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the work that you guys do here is amazing. And I mean, I honestly don't understand how it's possible for people to manage such hard work, not only educationally, helping your students with as many resources as possible, but also, I mean, helping them with the funding side of things, helping them with their economic standing, and making sure if they're even if they're not able to pay a tuition, that they're still able to graduate.
Well, that's one of the reasons why in 2021, about weeks after I arrived, I had an opportunity to write a grant proposal, and I focused on my students and the ability for them to be able to continue school through what we call gap funding, as well as through internships where we pay the students and the students go out and serve as interns at small businesses and nonprofits. But the whole idea is to help the students to be able to be successful as they matriculate. And fortunately, was able to get $20 million as a result of that proposal, which was the largest grant in the history of Medgar Evers College. And it has really served the students well. So when we have students who are in a position that meet the criteria for the for the students who are doing the internships, we start them no earlier than their second semester of the freshman year because we want them to get grounded first. But we teach them soft skills before we send them out so that they can learn appropriately how to serve in professional capacities out in the community. But it also helps the community because it's for small businesses and nonprofits that we place these student interns. And for the students who need the gap funding, those students have to sign a contract to say they will finish. If they come in as freshmen, they have to agree to finish within 4 years. And the students who are coming in as new transfer students have to sign a contract to say that they agree to finish in 2 years. And we fund them for those for that entire period, not just the tuition, but also books and Metro cards.
Really? So it's like an agreement that if you finish and graduate, then we will be funding you all the way.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. I mean, you won't find that at one of the bigger universities. The fact that you're doing the work of supporting them and educationally and financially, despite the resource shortage here compared to at much bigger universities.
That's why it's so important to try to um, have what I call friendships, if you will. It's everything is about relationship, and so if you have great relationships with people, there are people who know other people who have means, and so many times people want to make a difference, and so that is how our students are able to be successful. We have so many partners, more than 80 something partners now that we've gotten since 2021 that will take our students and help to support our students.
Yeah, it's very heartwarming that there were people out there who care so much to like fund and help the community around here. I mean, Medgar Evers College is like the shining star of this place, helping to empower people with college degrees, which are one of the most important things in this world nowadays.
Absolutely, and I would be remiss if I did not mention that Medgar Evers College was birthed out of the Brooklyn, Central Brooklyn community with social justice in its DNA, named for Medgar Wiley Evers, who was killed in his driveway for the rights of people in Mississippi to vote. And I'm mentioning that I always do when I do greetings, but I'm mentioning that particularly in this interview because Medgar Evers would have been 100 years old this year had he lived. And so the institution is named for a great person who was all about social justice, and that is our mantra, our mission. That is a mission of social justice to help uplift the community. And we are doing a lot around trying to do what we can to serve the community.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hear about that story at all. I sort of researched more into the Medgar Evers name, but I mean, it's a very heartwarming story, and I hope that you can continue in this presidential role to fill the hearts of others and allow them to make their own futures.
Well, I thank you. And for me, it's all about making a difference in the lives of others. Because for our students, if our students are able to get a degree and we continue to support them once they even graduate, because the success doesn't just stop at the college, but as they get out into the world of work, we do what we can to support them as well. Then it's going to not only uplift that student, it uplifts that student's family.
So, how many how many students graduate with degrees every year from Medgar Evers?
Well, it just depends on the year. In our most recent graduating class, 2024, we had 795 students to graduate. And the great thing about our graduation exercise is that we have a group of students who are high school students who are attending Medgar Evers College, and they graduate with their associate's degree. These are students who attend Medgar Evers Preparatory High School. They graduate with their associate's degree, and when they graduate, they haven't finished high school yet. And so that's always such a joy. We bring them in at the end of the line so that they can get some their just due. And so we have young high school students, such as around some maybe around your age, but most of them, of course, are going to be 15 or between 15 and 17 who are getting their college degrees at the same time, or later that year they will get their high school diploma.
That's insane. I mean, students are getting their college degree earlier than their high school diploma.
Yes,
So you're
yes.
changing the lives of 800 people in just 1 year. It's insane.
Yes, yes. And the sad thing is, though, that in the United States, when they look at graduation rates, the way that they determine graduation rates negatively impacts institutions that have a mission of social justice in many ways, in that a student is not counted by the federal government. They are not counted as graduates if they did not come into the institution as a first time, full time, first semester degree seeking student. And so if a student comes in the spring, that student isn't counted by the federal government. So when someone sees a graduating class where we have 795 students, um, out of that graduating class, probably less than 10% of those students are actually counted by the federal government. And so I've been championing the idea of that formula being changed because it really does not adequately show the work, the great work that is happening at institutions like Medgar Evers College.
Yeah, thank you so much for this interview. And I mean, that last point in specific really makes me think about why is such a specific formula being put into place when I mean almost every college has students transferring in later or students who aren't seeking a degree at first. This month is Black History Month and next month is Women's History Month. So do you have any initiatives planned to empower those groups here at Medgar Evers?
Well, we have a cultural affairs committee here at the campus, and so for all of the different celebrations, we actually do special events. And so for Black History Month, we're having a food tasting, a soul food tasting. That is going to be one of our big events that we're going to have during the day for students, faculty, and staff to be able to taste the various types of foods. But we also have a lecture series that's going on, and we just on Wednesday night had a guest speaker who is a former Pittsburgh Steeler football player, and we have others planned as well. And so there are numerous things that we do. Women's History Month, we have a focus as well. And so we try as best we can to appreciate all the different groups that we have here. But Black History Month is particularly special because it's one of the first that has been celebrated in this country for any group. And it was started by Carter G. Woodson. And it started out as Black History Week, and then it became Black History Month. And so, being a person from the enslaved people of America, I am particularly proud every year when we do these celebrations. But we have a saying that it's not a month that we recognize the contributions of African Americans, but we recognize them all year. Well, it's been a joy meeting you. You're
Thank you.
so mature.
Yeah, likewise. It's been my pleasure to meet you as well,
Yeah.
and I certainly hope we can one day meet again in the future.